Hi guys, Josh Lloyd here for your NBA DraftKings first look for Friday. Before we go any further, hit the notification bell, you'll never miss an episode. Hit the thumbs up, drop your comments down below as the show's going as well. Let's talk games, 8 of them on Friday in the NBA. First one is Atlanta at Philadelphia. There is a chance that Trae Young is returning in this game, amazingly, after just missing a week with that ankle sprain. Clint Capella and Bogdan Bogdanovic are both also listed as questionable, along with Trae Young. Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, they remain sidelined. Tony Snell looks like he'll be back in action as well. For Philadelphia, pretty clean injury sheet. Ben Simmons is at 7,500. It is hard to judge where the Sixers go because they've been blowing teams out. That's what I'm trying to say. Simmons only played 16 minutes last game. He had 26 fantasy points. Could he get 40 in this one? Could he get 30? He's a tough one to peg. While Toby Harris at 7,100, I'm much more interested in Harris at 7,100 than I am with Simmons. And then Embiid at 10-2. I'm just not sure. He hasn't really got to that level much lately. He's averaging just 35 over the last three. The Sixers have been in some pretty large blowouts. So that's one that I'm not 100% convinced on. Seth Curry is just an upside play. We want to watch the Clint Capella news. Now, I don't think I'd want to use Capella at 8,700, but if he is out, that's going to boost the value of John Collins at 7,300. And it also improves the value of Onyeka Okongwu at 3,900. There could be some value there in him. But they could decide to start Collins and Gallinari rather than Okongwu there. So that is one we have to watch. If Trae Young is out, I guess you can take a flyer on Brandon Goodwin, but he was obviously dreadful in that last game. What did he put up? Like 5 points? Like something dreadful. 10 points here. Some real shit stuff there from Goody, but he has put up better numbers in the past. I would look to Lou Williams at 5,200 as a pretty solid option if, say, Trae and Bogdanovic are both sidelined. Solomon Hill, maybe. He did put up some okay numbers last game because someone has to take some shots, and Hill was one of the guys that did do that in the last game. Next one we look at is the San Antonio Spurs. They are taking on the Boston Celtics. We know that Kemba Walker is out, but Marcus Smart will return after being suspended in the last game. No Derek White, so they started Devin Vassell with Lonnie Walker coming off the bench. Patty Mills at 3,200 was pretty disappointing last game, but that is a very cheap price for a bloke like Mills who can play 27 minutes and have 30 points. At 3,200, I think he's at least in the mix, and as is Rob Williams at 5,300 for Boston. Now, Williams was eased back last game. He had 22 points in 17 minutes. So give him 25 minutes, he'll get 30. And I think that's a distinct possibility here. Peyton Pritchard's at 43. They're showing a reluctance to start him. But his recent numbers, even in a bench role, have been pretty solid. Like a 41-pointer there, a 34-pointer there. Of course, you got to look in the middle where there's 6 and 18-pointers, which are pretty frustrating. But with Kemba out again, he at least moves into the player pool. So does Devin Vassell at 3,100. We don't know exactly what the minutes will be like. He played 25 in the last game, which is pretty encouraging, but I'm not ready to fully get into it. While Marcus Smart is at 6,700, maybe just a little bit too high. Jalen's at 88. He's dropping 50s every game. So I am more than happy to use him, as well as DeJounte Murray at 75, who has really stepped it up with Derek White sidelined. Let us go. Next game, we are looking at the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are hosting the Washington Wizards. Colin Sexton. Good news for Cavs fans. Colin Sexton has been upgraded to questionable. Matty Dellavedova, Isaiah Hartenstein still out, as is Larry Nance. But some good news there nonetheless. Alex Len's at 3,300. How do we trust Alex Len? It's really tough to do, obviously. But when I show you these last couple of games, you're going to be excited. 35 and 35 in under 25 minutes. At that price, you almost have to take that flyer. Westbrook's at 11,000. We know he's going to go out and put up numbers, so that's pretty strong. Well, Danny Gafford at 4,200. It's just hard to trust what Brooks is going to do. I wouldn't use Len and Gafford together, but there could be some value if everyone's going on Len, which I think a lot of people will. You might be able to pivot to Gafford and hope that it goes a different direction. Hachimura's at 51. I'm not really super keen on that, nor am I with Bradley Beal. And then Darius Garland's at 8,000. Now, Garlo's been putting up some huge numbers. Look at this recent run of form from him. 50, 33, 48, 45, 38. 8,000 is a lot, though, and if Sexton comes back and takes some usage, I'm less keen on Garland. If Sexto is out, I think Garlo can work. And then, of course, if Sexton is out, we look at Chetty Osman at 5,400, who's going to take a lot of shots. And it's not even a guarantee he's in the rotation when Sexton plays, but he's an option here. While Isaac Okoro had 33 points in his last game. Now, I wouldn't say that Okoro is a great option, far from it. But that is obviously intriguing. 33 and 28 the last two games. Now, if Sexton is in, That takes away some value from Okoro, but otherwise, he's not a terrible option as a streamer. I'm not massively into Jarrett Allen in this one, nor Kevin Love. I don't really think there's tremendous value in either of those blokes. Let's look at the Orlando Magic. They are taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are 12-point favorites here in this one. The total is 223. Jaren Jackson is out. Grayson Allen is doubtful. Does that mean that we get more DeAnthony Melton? Maybe. He's at 3,900, so the price is low enough to take a flyer on to get 22, 23 points. And then Desmond Bain, similarly at 3,200. He should be an option to start there over or with Grayson Allen out. Brandon Clark at 3,800 with Jackson out. That does help his value, and that's a very low salary. Well, Justice Winslow's been doing absolutely nothing. But in saying that, he's averaging 18 points, and at 3,100 for Justice, 3,100, 18 points, that's 6x value right there. Is it worth it, as he's listed as a power forward, yet he's playing primarily backup point guard? He could be an option for us. Bumba's at 5,000. It is hard to work out the minutes between him and Carter, but at 5,000, he's obviously an option for us. While for the, who are they called? The Orlando Magic, Michael Carter-Williams, Otto Porter, those guys are out. Terrence Ross is out again, so we're going to get some decent minutes from Dwayne Bacon, although he's not particularly exciting, as you're well aware. I think Cole Anthony at 65 is all right, and Ja Morant at 85 is probably pushing somewhat too high for me. I also don't hate Gary Harris, who dropped in 40 points in the last game. That is hard to expect that out of Harris, but he is at 4,400, so there's obviously upside if things come together. I'm not confident in that. Portland and Brooklyn, this is a back-to-back for the Nets. I don't expect Kevin Durant or Blake Griffin to play in this one, but I think there's a chance that Kyrie Irving returns to action for this game. Nick Claxton could also be in, but we don't know that. If Claxton does play, he's literally minimum salary. $3,000 for Claxo in a game that you might not have Griffin. That would work out pretty well for me. Otherwise, we could look at someone like DeAndre Jordan at 4,000, or Alize Johnson, who put up a huge game on Thursday. He's at 3,000 as well. Hopefully they get some extended run in for him. Kyrie's at 9,400, and if he does play and Durant is out, that looks pretty good to me. No Harden, of course. And then Landry Shamet at 39. That's a very cheap price, and we've seen Shamet have some success without Durant in the lineup. I'm really interested to see what Yusuf Nurkic can do against the Nets team that does yield some pretty big fantasy points to opposing centers. Not all that keen on Damian Lillard. He just can't really get it together. While McCollum at 81 is okay without being spectacular. I said DeAndre Jordan at 4,000 could be an option. I think he's a relatively solid cash floor sort of a player. Milwaukee and Chicago. Yanni was ruled out of the Bucks game on Thursday after about 40 seconds. So I'd have to assume that they're going to be extra cautious with his playing time and his games played. So I don't think he'll play in this one. Thad Young's at 51. I think there's a relatively solid floor for Young, and we saw his minutes push up in the last game. With Yanni out, we're looking at Punch Bob. We're looking at PJ Tucker, although Portis is by far the better fantasy player there. If Antetokounmpo is out, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, they get a boost in that scenario. Kobe White, 6,400 for Kobe. Shooting is an issue for him for sure, but he can be a 30-point guy pretty easily. Drew's at 78, as I said, that would work. That would work if Yanni's out. While Nicola Vichevich is at 10,100. He's listed as probable, so we expect him to play in that scenario. And giving up 50s or getting 50s recently has been what he's been doing, and I think there's a real opportunity for him to put up some good numbers. We don't expect Zach LaVine to play in this game either. Utah and Phoenix. The Jazz go into this one without their starting backcourt again. No Mike Conley and no Donovan Mitchell. Also, Royce O'Neal is questionable, while Jay Crowder is questionable for Phoenix, and Dario Saric is probable. George Niang's at 3,400. We saw Niang put up a huge game in the last one. Now, I don't expect him to do what he did in that last contest, where he dropped in 31 points, but he had 24, 17, and 23 in the last three games. And he's going to have opportunity. I like him quite a bit here. Ayton's going up against Gobert. In his last couple of games, DeAndre had been poor, but he is averaging 32 in the last three against Rudy. I'm just not sure it's the right move here. Jordy Clarkson at 73 is probably too high, while Gobert at 86 also feels too high. I think Booker at 7,900 works, as does Chris Paul at 78. In fact, I'd prefer Paul to Booker at those particular prices. While Bogdanovic at 63, he's very, very hit and miss. And 7,000 for Joe Ingles is just way too high. He's just not a guy that's going to be able to put up significantly high usage to justify that price, even though the backcourt is all out and injured. Kings and Lakers. Lakers 9-point favorites. The total is 223.5. Marvin Bagley is probable, so he's likely to return with Harrison Barnes out. Do they just start Bagley, or do they go back to Chimezie Metu? Well, Alex Caruso is questionable. Now, Metu's at 3,600. He played a lot of minutes in that game as a starter. He only had 19 fantasy points, and Bagley returning probably does hurt that somewhat. Drummond's at 7,500. Feels too high. The 72 for Dennis Schroeder looks all right to me. I don't think it's great, but it's all right. And then Anthony Davis is getting back into it, and at 9,100, I feel all right about using Anthony Davis in what should be a pretty good matchup for him. Bud Hield at 7,200. We're seeing some real big performances from Hield at the moment with all the injuries. He's averaging 38 over the last 5, so I am okay with using him. Well, Halliburton's up at 7.4. That's okay. I'm not sure there's enough upside in Tyrese, though, for me to get particularly excited about it. And that is the 8 games for whatever the day is, for Friday. That's it. Let's look overall at the slate. If Claxton plays at 3,000, we like that. I like Alex Len, Pat Mills, George Niang, Thad Young, Melton and Bain, Kyrie, Rob Williams, Justice Winslow, perhaps Justice Winslow, Rudy Gay, maybe Ben Simmons, Dylan Brooks, Toby Harris, Lonnie Walker, Mo Bamba, Devin Vassell, Chimezie Metu, Jonas Valanciunas, and Russell Westbrook, and Yusuf Nurkic, of course. Guys, that'll do it for me today. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, give it a thumbs up, and find my channel in the title and in the description, Josh Lloyd Fantasy Basketball. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.